not such a good day to be out shooting, but great day to be reloading. Having uniformed the flash holes on all your cases, which, by the way, only needs to be done once during the life of a case, now it's time to clean out the primer pockets. How a primer pocket cleaning tool works is you insert the bladed part into the primer pocket, give it a few twists, I like to give it 5 or 6, tap out the residue that you've loosened, and you're done. Now we're not trying to remove any brass, so be careful not to push too hard. You can go through a lot of cases really fast. You'll find that the residue and the fouling left over from the primers is really quite brittle and comes out very easily with very little pressure. Also, make sure you insert the tool straight into the primer pocket and keep it straight while you spin it. Otherwise, you're liable to remove a little bit of brass, and that would change the shape of the primer pockets and make them inconsistent. Inconsistency will hurt our accuracy. Consistency will improve it. Comparing the clean case with an unclean case reveals pretty clearly why this is an important step. You just can't seat primers consistently on dirty primer pockets. Once the primer pockets have all been cleaned, it's time to sort the brass by case weight and neck thickness. In order to sort our cases by weight, we'll use a manual beam scale. This particular model is an RCBS 505. This is a Reading neck thickness gauge. It measures the thickness of the necks of our brass cases to within 1/1000th of an inch. Before we use our scale, it's very important to tare it. What that means is to set it so that 0 reads 0, and that since we'll be weighing cases that weigh approximately 90 grains, so that 90 weighs exactly 90. That way we're not getting an inconsistent measurement. As long as you do that every time you use your scale, your results will be repeatable, and repeatability is another important key to accuracy. In case you're wondering why I'm wearing gloves, it's to keep the oils from my skin off of our measuring weights. The problem with oil on the measuring weights is they will then collect dirt and dust, which will give us a slightly inaccurate reading. But slight inaccuracies lead to slight inaccuracies. So we're going to stick with gloves. So since our cases will weigh about 90 grains, we're going to try and measure out 90 grains. So we'll start with a 50 grain and 2 20 grain weights. We're then going to set the weights on the beam scale to reflect 90 grains of weight. Underneath the left side of the scale, there's a small plastic foot that as you turn it will raise or level the scale so that it reads precisely 0. Next, label 4 or 5 containers in increments of no more than 1 grain. These are pretty well sorted from the last time I reloaded them, which is a good thing. If you find after you've reloaded your cases several times that you have a couple of outliers that weigh significantly more or significantly less, somewhere in your process you have a problem. Weight sorting our brass revealed that we had 5 cases that were between 90 and 90.9 grains, 73 cases that were between 91 and 91.9 grains, and only 1 case that was just a shade over 92 grains. Label 2 containers with our measured case weights of 91 91.0 to 91.9 grains. And we're now going to sort our cases by neck thickness. So our increments here will be plus or minus 1/1000th of an inch and plus or minus 1.5 thousandths of an inch. Anything more than 1.5 thousandths of an inch, if accuracy is your goal, is too much. You may as well throw the cases away. The reason neck thickness is such an important factor in accuracy is that the thickness of the neck, assuming the same diameter of all the cases, is going to determine how much neck tension there is on the bullet, which will determine how much pressure is required to build up in the case before the bullet actually exits the case mouth when the powder is burning when you fire a shot. If there's a difference in pressure inside the case when the bullet leaves the case mouth, then you'll have differences in velocity, which will result in differences in vertical spread downrange. Before we actually begin measuring the thickness of the case necks, be absolutely certain that the gauge measures exactly 0. Even 1/4 of a thousandth of an inch here is going to make a big enough difference that's going to affect your accuracy. A neck thickness gauge works by inserting a case onto the measuring arm and then slowly rotating it. As you rotate it, the measuring head will go up and down according to the varying thickness of the brass on the case mouth. So as that measuring head moves up and down, it will push a dial above it that will measure the deflection in thousandths of an inch. Consider that here this case mouth has a very consistent neck thickness. It's between 11.5 and 12 thousandths of an inch. That's less than 1/4 thousandth of an inch variation. If you get a group of cases like that, you'll have extraordinarily consistent ammunition. This is one of the most important factors in accuracy. When I first started using this, I noticed that I had a little trouble feeding the case mouths onto the measuring arm. You'll definitely get better at that with practice. Also, you'll be able to tell if you have a flash hole that is inconsistent or too small or too large. It'll either be too tight, in which case you might need to reuniform that flash hole, or if it's too loose, you may need to throw it away. Make at least 2 full revolutions with each case to be sure that your results are accurate. Sometimes a needle will jump just a little bit. That indicates that there is a slight dent in the case. Usually that is not going to affect your accuracy. Right there. It just barely goes over, but if it's over, it's over. That is outside of our acceptable tolerances. And that right there is exactly what you want to see. About 1/4 thousandth variation. That's ideal. The final results of sorting our brass by both weight and neck thickness are 62 cases that will be perfect for high-level accuracy reloading. They are within 1 grain in weight of each other, and their neck thicknesses are all within 1/1000th of an inch. We also have 10 cases that will be quite accurate, good enough for practice or hunting, that are all within 1 grain in case weight of each other, and are all within 1.5 thousandths of an inch.